views and opinions expressed in the Golden Boot podcast are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Golden Boot podcast as a whole.
Y'all ready to get rolling? Quiet on the set. Hey, welcome back. Another hot episode of the Golden Boot. It's your boy Pooh Bell. Got my man Ant Petty Murphy in the building. What's good with you, my boy?
Everything good over here, my boy.
Yes, sir. Man, what a weekend. What a effing football weekend. Man, I was at a wedding this weekend, and I posted it. I was at a wedding this weekend in Birmingham, right? Before the wedding started, they was watching the game, the Vanderbilt Alabama game. On the way to reception, they was like, "Hey, it's getting kind of scared for some of these folks." Hey, by the time we got to the reception, I said, "Hey, I got a cousin, big time they alum, big time Alabama fans." I was like, "Y'all might as well give them a hug and kiss now, because they might not be staying long." Man, what a game. But man, the weekend started hot. It started Friday. I can't even remember the games Thursday, because I think it was some good ones. It might have been some upsets then too. I might have to look back and see. But I know Friday it started with hold on, I'm pulling up the schedule now. It started on Friday with the Houston TCU. Then you had the Syracuse UNLV. And then when we rolled over to Saturday, it was on and popping. Bro, I'm talking about some teams got beat and there was some upsets. I didn't even realize teams had lost until today, so was having to go back and look it up. So man, looking forward to tonight's conversation, talk about some stuff. Trouble in paradise, bro. I think it's some cause for concerns in a couple of these schools. I know it's gonna be some overreaction.
I wouldn't call it paradise, but
yeah, it's gonna be some it's gonna be some definitely gonna be some overreactions, but we're gonna get to it though. We're gonna get to it. But first, man, you know what we gotta do? We gotta give a shout out to our sponsors over at BetOnline. BetOnline.ag. We will be back in 1 minute. BetOnline.ag is your number one source for all your sports information, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds, lines, and player injury reports for this year's NBA and NHL playoffs. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters. This season, we have you covered for all your sports wagering needs. We have everything from NBA, NFL, MLB, and NHL to golf, tennis, UFC, and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games that you can play right from your home. Head on over to betonline.ag today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use the promo code BLEAV to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. And we are back. As we mentioned, we talked about this weekend, the upsets and stuff, and people love stats, so let's talk about them. 7 of the top 25 teams lost this weekend. 4 of those were top 10 teams. Of those games, those upsets, those 7. Want to take a guess of what was the main stat in most of those?
Probably time of possession.
Bingo. Time of possession. In 4 games, the Vanderbilt game, the Arkansas upset, the Syracuse upset, and the Texas A&M upset. Time of possession was a key factor. Vanderbilt held the ball for 42 minutes and 8 seconds. Bama had the ball for 17 minutes, 52 seconds. Just so we, Arkansas, 35 minutes, 29 seconds to Tennessee's 24 minutes and 31 seconds. Syracuse, 39 minutes and 38 seconds to UNLV's 20 minutes and 22 seconds. And this one's a little bit closer, but still, Texas A&M, 33 minutes and 13 seconds to Missouri's 26 minutes and 47 seconds. So that was a key stat. And when that one didn't fall through in some of the other games, that key stat, turnover differential.
Yeah.
So big time, big time. I don't even know where to start. Where you want to start? Big shout out to, the Cougs over in Houston. Friday night getting it done against TCU. Huge win. That one, I didn't even look at time of possession or anything in that one. Oh, here we go. Houston, 36 minutes, 53 seconds. TCU, 23 minutes and 7 seconds. And 4 turnovers. So, funny story. We talked to Jay on Saturday, call him, congratulate him. Your boy, Dylan, gets on the phone and says, "Hey, Jay, I ain't going to even lie to you. I thought TCU was going to blow y'all out." So, instantly, Dylan, get off the phone. Get off, get off the phone. That's not what you do. So, but man, I think honestly, and and just about every one of these upsets for the most part, we thought most of these were going to be blowouts. Vanderbilt, Alabama, everybody. I mean, before the game, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be, hard pressed to find anybody.
Well, I took in my little ESPN pick'em thing. I took Alabama minus 23.
Arkansas, Tennessee. I thought this game would be. I didn't think it would be a blowout, but I definitely thought Tennessee would win comfortably. And it's funny because I was looking. I said, "Dang, why we didn't put that on the whatchamacallit?" Because we thought it wouldn't be a good game. As a matter of fact, one game that we were going to put on
was a good game. Yeah,
was a good game. SMU Louisville.
That's my fault. I didn't think that would be a good game. I thought Louisville was gonna blow them out, but shows what I know.
Yeah, but it's funny because we replaced it with what game did we replace it with? I think we replaced it with a game that turned out to be
Washington.
Was it USC? What, Michigan, Washington?
I mean, yeah, my bad. I said USC, Michigan, Washington. Yeah.
Michigan, Washington. And that turned out to be a good game. So, and we talked about, you literally said on Wednesday, because I said this a slate of games that I don't think anybody's excited for. You said, watch, this will be the weekend where we have those really good games.
Chaos, man.
Yeah,
I knew like the weekend where you think, oh, there's no good games, it ain't really a good weekend for college football. There's no such thing as not a good weekend for college football. Either you have matchups like we have coming up this weekend where you got, all these top 25, top 5 matchups and things like that, or you have a weekend like this past weekend where there's chaos everywhere and teams get upset left and right. So if it wasn't gonna be a weekend full of the top matchups, I knew it was gonna be a weekend of chaos, and it didn't fail me.
Yeah. The
But
game
speaking
that
of upsets, though, man.
Go ahead.
Speaking of upsets, I would be remiss if I didn't mention one of the biggest upsets of the weekend. You know what I mean? 17-point underdogs. Playing a team that scored 133 points in their last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
The ULM Warhawks defeated James Madison last night, 21-19. Held them to only 19 points. After, like I mentioned, they scored 130 something their last 2 games, including hanging 70 on North Carolina. So they ain't no slouch over there at James Madison, you know. But
At all.
to your point about time possession, though, ULM won a time possession battle. And they didn't win the turnover margin, but they scored off the turnover that they did force, which makes it even more, more sweet when you get that turnover. So shout out to them boys, man. They making some noise over there at ULM, man. We're gonna talk about it later on, but UAB might have made a mistake.
Man, don't even get me started. But yeah, man. Major shout out to ULM. Because I did tune in. I sent you the message. I said, okay, I see you, ULM. But
crazy atmosphere too, man.
Crazy. Okay, did you go to the game, or you was just
I was there.
Okay. The game that I said that I didn't even realize that it was that the upset occurred at the game. USC Minnesota.
Yep.
What a game. Rowed the boat. PJ Fleck and the crew
should have beat Michigan last week.
I completely agree.
That bogus call, but they turn around and score 14 in the fourth quarter this week to knock off USC at home.
Yeah. Major shout out to them. That USC
Miami should have lost last night.
You know what? We're gonna get to that one. Because it's 2 teams that I feel like should have lost. We're gonna get to that one. Because that was a really good game too. Well, entertaining, shall I say, at the end. Let me ask this. No, I'm gonna say that too. Say that. Give me we'll come back to that one. Of the games, is there something else that we're missing that we didn't, I guess, pay attention to, or something we feel like somebody we overlooked too fast in these games, especially with these upsets this weekend?
I mean, A&M. The only loss that they have is week 1 against Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
They won with multiple quarterbacks. They've been able to run the ball extremely well, even after losing their top running back before the season. So I think people kind of slept on A&M, thinking that they the same Jimbo Fisher A&M, but Mike Elko have them boys playing. Mike Elko got them boys playing good defense and running the football. That's a recipe for winning football.
Transitive property. Do you think, and you'll get when I say transitive property, what I'm talking about?
You better be careful with transitive properties.
Do you think that the reason why people were low on Texas A&M, not because they lost to Notre Dame, but because Notre Dame lost to NIU?
No,
so you get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, but I think people was like, that might be part of it. I get that could be part of it, but at the same time, though, like, the transitive property thing is where you Cause then like that's how you get Ole Miss beating Kentucky. You know what I'm saying? Cause you think, oh, Georgia blew them out, you know what I'm saying, and all this kind of stuff. So I feel like you got to be careful with that, because you don't play the same team week in week out. You know what I mean? Like the
Matchups
team that
make,
the team that Notre Dame played week 1 wasn't the same Notre Dame team that lost to Northern Illinois at home. You know, Notre Dame was more up for that A&M game than they were for Northern Illinois. So you kind of got to be careful with all that. Because I mean, I posted something last night, like with the transitive property stuff. So ULM beat James Madison, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, James Madison beat North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina beat Minnesota. Minnesota beat USC. USC beat LSU. Does that mean that ULM would beat LSU? You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you gotta be careful, because you don't play the same team week in, week out. You know what I mean? Like, it's teams get up. This ain't the NFL where everybody's professionals and everybody's pretty much got the same schedule and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's a different sport, and I don't think some of that stuff works.
Yeah. Danny Girl says some people may have overrated Mizzou just a little too, though. I think that's fair. By some people, she means herself. Mizzou, I think Mizzou did have a lot of us fooled. I honestly thought, not necessarily that Mizzou was good. I thought Mizzou just had a slow start. Slow starts to the season, because we saw, we've seen them pick it up, in certain spots. Then again, who have they played?
Where did they pick it up at?
Only reason I say that, because I feel like they had a slow start against like Vanderbilt, and then they picked it up when they needed to, as far as moving the ball and stuff. They had a bye week, but something you pointed out,
I haven't seen any point in the season where Missouri, to me, looked like a good football team.
And that's fair.
You know what I mean? Fair. Like, I felt like Vanderbilt more so lost that game than Missouri won that game. And I think Boston College just ran out of gas against them. So I feel like not once did they go out and show me, they took care of business versus this team. They, you know what I'm saying? They went out and beat this team. And so I wasn't very high on Missouri before the season. And then what I saw the first few weeks kind of reinforced what I thought, so I get what people saw, but as far as the schedule lining up and all that kind of stuff, but I just felt like they didn't have the especially on defense, man. Like, and you saw what Conor Wegman was able to do to this Missouri defense, and he didn't look good against Notre Dame, and albeit Notre Dame defense is pretty damn good, but he torched Missouri defense.
Yeah. I'm just looking through now some of these games. Danny also comes back and she says, I think people thought it was Elko's first year in a broken program. That did lose a lot in the portal, but I am no longer sleeping on Texas A&M, Arkansas, or Vandy.
Okay, let's break that down.
Mm-hmm.
When you say broken program and then you say you lost a lot in the portal, that you kind of solved being a broken program by losing a lot of those guys who caused the culture problem to begin with in the program. But then I think people look at what they lost, but they don't look at what they brought in. I mean, if you look at the edge rusher they brought in for Purdue, he was like an all Big Ten caliber guy, but we look at it like, oh, he from Purdue. You know what I mean? Like, he ain't gonna really be nothing in the SEC. But then boom, he turns out to be one of the best edge rushers in the SEC. So I feel like people didn't give them credit for the moves that they made to replace some of what they lost. But at the same time, I think there was some addition by subtraction by losing some of the guys that they ended up leaving.
Yeah. Yeah. Arkansas. I have been saying that Bobby P is scared. Bobby P at Texas A&M wasn't as scary because Bobby P didn't have control at Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby P got control at Arkansas. I tell you that now.
Bobby P ain't who scared me.
Is it Traven?
It's T. Will.
T. Yeah. Is it Traven Williams or Travis Williams? Yeah, I can't think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know T. Will.
Man, what he did with that defense yesterday versus Tennessee, that boy gonna be on the Bros
watch list.
Yeah, he gonna be on that list for sure. He got them playing, and I mean, look at the games they lost. Arkansas could very easily be 5-0 right now. You know what I mean? Oklahoma State beat them technically, but Arkansas beat Arkansas that game. And you could say the same thing versus A&M last week. You know what I mean? That Arkansas kind of shot themselves in the foot going down the stretch. And so not only is Arkansas doing it when they weren't expected to, they're doing it with defense a lot of the times. And Petrino and Taylor Green and Jackson, the transfer from Utah, gonna get a lot of credit. But they did it yesterday without Taylor Green and without Jackson. The backup quarterback came in and let him down for a touchdown late in the game. And then I was like, oh, they left too much time for Nico in Tennessee. And then the defense goes out there and just gets a stop and shuts Tennessee down, even after the long pass by Tennessee to get them down into the red zone area. So, I mean, you got to tip your cap to Arkansas's defense for that stand that they made late in that game and the way they was able to put pressure on Nico all night.
Yeah. Vanderbilt. And, I talk about Vanderbilt.
Yeah, man. I gotta pull a Danny. It was last show when I came on here and said Vandy's still Vandy though. You know what I mean? And you've been telling me that it ain't the same Vandy team, and you've been saying it for a few years. But I think this year I definitely agree with you. I think they got more talent on this team than they've had the last few years.
I can explain to you why. Do you know? Because I know you actually, when we did the season preview, I know you missed the I know you watched it, but I know you weren't on with God, I can't remember the guy's name. But we'll definitely have him back. But when we had him on Locked in Vandy, gentlemen, do you know who the OC is?
No, Jerry Kill, ain't it?
Jerry Kill, who was at Minnesota.
New Mexico. Yeah, he was at New Mexico when they beat
last
Auburn.
year when they beat Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
The quarterback,
yeah, it was
most of the wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
They also came from New Mexico with them. And I know we hear, oh my goodness, it's New Mexico, a WAC team, or I don't even know if they Mountain West. What I don't know what conference they in. But we hear that, saying, oh, but that's that, saying a group of 12 or whatever they are this week. That's that school. But when you've got continuity, when you've got someone who's in a system that they've probably played in the last 2-3 plus years, you're going to be good. You may not necessarily have as much talent, but you can execute.
Well, I think the talent level of the whole program has went up in the last few years. And I think they kind of made a change of philosophy, because if you was looking at it the last couple of years, they was getting a lot of guys who was transferring out after a year of Vandy. You know what I mean? They just wanted to say, oh, I played in the SEC, and then transfer to another SEC school or another power program school, somewhere like that. But now they getting people who want to be at Vandy.
That's true.
And I think that makes a difference. I think the culture has changed since Clark Lee got there, but I think now he's got the players who to fit the culture. And so I think that's why we've seen them be as successful as they have been this year, beating Vitek, beating Alabama, of course, but consistently hanging in. I know the Georgia Southern loss was it
Yeah.
kind of makes you kind of like, oh, Vandy gonna Vandy. You know what I mean? They're gonna have one of them games where you scratch your head. But if they wouldn't have lost that game, I think people would be looking at them totally different right now.
Yeah. Something you just said, they're getting kids who want to be at Vandy. I look back and I think about some of the kids, the guys who played at Vandy, you know, kind of nameless.
Good point, side note.
Yeah, very good point. But it's something that I do want to point out. Vandy, Jack Besh was committed to Vandy before LSU went and got him. Both my little cousin and Jay Sean were recruited by Vandy, so they're looking for talent. It's not just we're going to get smart kids who play football. We're going to get football players who happen to also be smart.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know they've gotten some guys like Donovan Kaufman went there, but he transferred like after a year. Yeah, we had some kids from around this area go there, transferred after a year. You know what I mean? But now we got a kid up there, Vandy, and he wants to be a Vandy. You know what I mean? So it's a different mindset. You know what I mean? And I think that's getting more buy-in. You know, Clark Lee is a hell of a coach. You know what I mean? Like, but now he's got the players who want to be a part of what he's building, and that's what's leading to what we've seen.
Yeah, I think one other thing, and it's probably a common theme for all these teams that pulled off upsets. Building a staff that you can, that you can depend on around you. You talked about, I said Bobby P. You talked about T. Will. We just talked about Jerry Kill. The guys that Elko himself, where he was as a DC, and up and coming, just building the staff he's built. Rhett Lashley at SMU and the staff he's put together. So it's surrounding yourself with guys who you can trust and believe in, to where, hey, if we call this play, it can get executed. The players believe in it. So that's going to lead me to my next point. I'm sure most of you have seen, and Danny brought it up, talking about the disrespect about Bama playing hungover. I'm sure you've seen, and shout out to my guy, you know what I'm saying, and he in here, Renard from Down South Football. He showed me, or he sent me the clip we were talking earlier about Malachi Moore and the antics on the field. Tell me you have no respect for your DC. What I tell him, you have no respect for your DC.
It ain't just the DC.
Oh yeah, the head coach as well. But
and
you look at
to me, that's more of a red flag than the DC. You know what I mean? Like, you're a captain of a team, so you are a reflection of that head coach. You are a leader of the team who stayed after Saban left and wanted to be part of the change of regimes, and you wanted to, you know what I mean? You wanted to be a captain, be a leader, and all that, and then you go out there and throw a tantrum on the field. I understand some of it being passion. You upset at the outcome of the game, and you're not complacent and tolerant and losing, but that's not how you handle it, bro. Kicking the football once the referee sets it down for play, throwing your mouthpiece, you know what I mean? All that's not passion, bro. If you want passion, is getting your team on the sideline, huddling them up on the sideline before the end of the very end of the game, and saying this ain't the Bama standard. You know what I mean? This ain't how we play football. That would have been being a leader. Rallying your team before the end of the game while they still had a chance to go out there and make plays and change the outcome of the game. But what you did was you threw a tantrum because things didn't go your way.
I'm around, what I'm saying, 9 or 7, 8, 9-year-olds for Little League. I've seen a kid throw a temper tantrum on the sideline or in the game. I've seen kids, lash out and stuff like that. I've never seen any of our kids kick a football. I've, saying when the referee sat down because they were upset. I've never seen any of our kids just sit there and throw a mouthpiece and stuff. Now, again, we've had some kids throw temper tantrums, but guess where they at when they throw that temper tantrum?
On the bench.
They on the sideline. Yep, they on the sideline, and I get it. We can talk to them and stuff, but we also talking about 7, 8, and 9-year-olds. You are 18 plus. You have to learn to regulate. How do you deal with the word if say things don't go your way? You just all out just act like a child. That doesn't work, bro. It does not work. And I brought up, saying no respect for the DC because I know when Kane Womack came to Alabama, he wasn't a sexy name. He wasn't a big name. He'd shown success at, South Alabama, what he's able to do with the defense. But again, wasn't a sexy name, wasn't a big name.
Neither was Kalen DeBoer.
Neither was, and completely agree. And then they now they've lost this game. And what's to say about the future?
I don't know. I think some issues with that defense got covered up by Ryan Williams' greatness against Georgia. If Ryan Williams don't make that spectacular play, we start talking about how Bama let Georgia come back in that second half. And the lack of adjustments made in that second half. Then you turn around and talk about what South Florida was able to do to him, but ultimately just didn't have the depth or the athletes to do it for a full game. Turn around after Georgia does that to you, and Vanderbilt does what they do to you. So I mean,
Saban literally alluded to it before the game during college football the show. He said they should not look past Vanderbilt. He said because Alabama has a weakness with I forget, he named some stuff, blank. He said, and Vanderbilt is able to do those things. He literally said it that morning.
Yeah, but we've seen them have issues on defense. So is it a player problem? Is it a coaching problem? Is it a combination of both? I don't know. But all I know is that defense has issues and they could be exploited.
I'm gonna say this and then we can move on. Unless you got you've got a retort. We talked, and I actually came back on this last week, but we talked, and remember I said that what I have to see is if Kalen DeBoer, when it comes down to that last minute and he's got to make a play, if he's able, if he's able to find that to get over the hump, when you're down. I said that about Kalen DeBoer. What I didn't do was say, does his coaching staff have that?
Well, I don't know if Kalen DeBoer got it.
I know. I mean, I said I gave it to him last week because of the comeback versus Georgia.
Ryan Williams made a hell of a play. Like let's call it what it is. If you take that play away, he got out coached in the second half.
I completely agree.
So Ryan Williams saved a lot of questions about that we would have had about Alabama because he made that spectacular play.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that. Now, man, playing with fire, bro. You talked about Miami. Played Cal. They were down 21 going into the fourth, 20 or 21, something like that. I was watching this game. I think I fell asleep literally when Miami got the ball back with 2 minutes left because it was like midnight and I had been out at a wedding doing wedding reception things. So I was tired. I tried to stay up and watch it. I don't know if it's hey, shout out to Cam Ward for what he did for the comeback, or if I should say Miami should not have been in that position in the first place.
Both two things can be true.
Mhm.
I mean, he had a hell of a fourth quarter, and come back to bring his team back for the W. Questionable call that probably could have saved the game for Miami. I mean, for Cal, a targeting that wasn't called. But I'm not gonna say that that's the reason why Cal lost the game. But Tyler will. But but I think the biggest takeaway for me is I don't think Miami is good as they're hyped up to be. I think they can be exploited, but I don't know if there's anybody on their schedule who can really take advantage of their weaknesses because their schedule's so easy. But if they have to play a Clemson, in the conference championship, I think Clemson will beat them. I just think that Miami don't really have much on offense outside of Cam Ward. I mean, if you look at the numbers last night, Cam Ward threw for 437, but they ran for 138.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, and Damian Martinez, they paid a lot of money to get him to come there from Oregon State, but he got like less than 300 yards on the season. And I know it's kind of like running back by committee or whatever you want to call it, but I still don't think that's the level of production they thought they would be getting from him. So if Cam got to be Captain Superman every week, I think eventually that's going to come to a point where they're just not feasible. And I think that probably won't be until they get tested again. And if you look at their schedule, I mean, it ain't going to be Florida State. It might be Louisville, but I doubt it. But it ain't going to be Florida State, Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Syracuse. Like, they really ain't got a whole bunch on there that you really say, oh, yeah, they finna really be tested.
Ironically, if Elko was still at Duke, I think Duke could do it.
I mean, Manny Diaz at Duke, so they kind of got something similar to
That's fair.
Elko, you know what I mean? But I don't know if they got the horses to do it.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you somebody else who I think played with fire and escape. Georgia with Auburn.
I ain't watched that game, so I don't know.
Georgia actually played that game Auburn had played that game really close. And Georgia, this is 3 games in a row, if I'm not mistaken, where Georgia has, I guess you could say, a sluggish start and ended up coming back and winning. Yeah, Kentucky, Alabama, or comeback, at least making a comeback. Kentucky, Alabama, Auburn. So Dylan had a hot take. He actually called today and he said it to me. He said it full with his chest. He said, Georgia is trash. I said, what? He said, Georgia is trash. I said, why you say that? He said, how can Vandy beat Alabama and Georgia can't? So he said, Georgia is trash. And it's funny. It's funny he said that, but then I started looking and thinking about not necessarily the Vandy angle, but I'm looking at the struggles they've had this year.
I mean,
and realistically,
they struggle with Kentucky, but Kentucky turned around and beat Ole Miss. So how bad is Kentucky?
Yeah. So
and that was on the road.
Yeah. And when I say struggle with Kentucky, I'm not saying because they struggle. I'm being honest, realistic. Georgia should probably be either 2 or 3 losses.
To who?
The last 3 games.
So they should have lost to Auburn, who never had the lead in the game.
If Auburn had more talent, yeah.
But they don't have more talent. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
Okay.
So they shouldn't be undefeated. I mean, they shouldn't have lost the game yesterday. Auburn never had the lead.
Okay. And that's fair.
I
If
mean,
they
like
play
I
a better,
think,
if they play a, if they play a better team in that point in this position, Georgia is that's another loss for Georgia.
okay. I think you playing like hypotheticals here. If they were
Okay.
playing a different team, they would have lost. But they weren't playing a different team. They were playing
Okay.
Auburn. You know
All
what I'm
right.
saying? Auburn never had the lead, and
Mhm.
so I don't think. I mean, it might have been closer than it should have been, but I can't say that they should have lost that game. The Kentucky game was the first road game on SEC game on the road. Every year, that's a close game for Georgia. Every year, you can go back and look at it on the Kirby. Every year, the first road game in the SEC is a close game. And Kentucky ain't as bad of a team as we thought at the time because they had just came off that blowout loss to South Carolina. So we thought that they were terrible, and then we saw what they did to Ole Miss. So I think that game looked different now than it did at the time whenever they struggled with Kentucky.
Mhm.
They should have never been in the game versus Alabama after the first half they had. Carson Beck was terrible in the first half, threw three interceptions or whatever it was. Should have been 3 interceptions if it wasn't. And they got the safety and all that. And they still found a way to take the lead with 2 minutes left in that game. And if it wasn't for Ryan Williams being incredible, they win that game. And then they play in another rivalry game against Auburn and win by 18 points. Like, how can you say they should have lost when they won by 18 points?
Okay. Because again, as you said, I guess I am playing hypothetical because I'm saying they don't look good to me. Well, you know what?
That's a different.
This-
That's totally different.
Let me say let me put it like this: for the standard that Georgia has set forth, and what in my expectations of them coming into the season, Georgia does not look good.
Oh, that's
They
fair.
look they look serviceable. They look like they can they will probably still make the playoffs. But Georgia's not. Well, I take that back. I don't know because they may have 2 or 3 losses looking at their schedule.
I
What
mean,
they have,
that's fair. Saying they're not playing up to the standard they've set or what we thought they would be coming into the season or whatever, that's fair.
Mhm.
But saying that and saying they should have 3 losses is two totally different things.
Okay. Well, I'll say this. I feel like they should have at least 2. That's what I say 2 or 3. I'll say 2.
So you saying they should have lost to Kentucky?
They should have lost Kentucky.
But at the same time, I feel like we can't say that they ain't gonna make the playoffs because they got a game versus Tennessee and they got a game versus Texas. You know what I mean? Like
And they
Tennessee
play
ain't
Ole
what we
Miss.
thought. Tennessee ain't what we thought they were.
You're absolutely right. But they got
Ole
Texas.
Miss ain't necessarily what we thought they were.
But they got okay. They play at Texas, at Ole Miss.
Okay, Texas, I agree, but Ole Miss ain't who we thought they were, are they?
Not completely. No, I completely
So, I
agree.
mean, like I can't just chalk that up as saying they finna lose that one either. You know
I'm
what I
not
mean?
saying
Like,
I'm not, and I'm in no means saying that right now. I'm looking at it and say, "Oh, that's definitely a loss," but I'm saying that's definitely a losable game. Extra,
oh yeah, it
and it
was
looks
losable. It was losable coming into the season. That's what I'm saying. I don't think nothing has changed from Georgia coming into the season. We said they weren't going undefeated
yeah.
going into the season, and we said that I said that I thought that they could lose to Texas, Bama, Ole Miss, and Tennessee. I thought that they would win at least 2 of them, you know what I mean? But probably 3 of them. But so far, we kind of on par with what we were saying.
All right, now let me ask this, because I'm trying to go back and look, playing with fire. Anybody else who may not necessarily be as, oh, I'm sorry, not be as good, but somebody else who was on the ropes. Cal, what you call it? We just say, well, Cal and not Cal. I'm sorry, Miami. We talked about them. We talked about Georgia. That might be it. That might be it for that one. Let me ask this: from the games from this weekend, how would you rate some of these games or rank them in order? I guess we say 5. You know what I'm saying? How would you rank these games? Rank the games of the weekend.
The game of the weekend?
Games of the weekend that you rank the top 5, I guess you could say.
No particular order because I don't feel like thinking it hard. Vandy, Bama, Syracuse, UNLV, Washington, Michigan, Tennessee, Arkansas, Miami, Cal.
I would probably replace the only one I would replace the Washington Michigan game. I'll probably replace that one with the Minnesota USC game. And I know you may not have, yeah.
No, I ain't watched that one, so
yeah. So man, it's this. Which losing team is in the most trouble?
Missouri. I mean, you could argue it's Tennessee because they still got to play Bama and Georgia, so they could have 3 losses on their schedule. Well, they play Vandy too, but I think it's Missouri because I don't think they're very good. I don't know if Missouri beats. Well, I don't. They're not beating Alabama most likely, but they still got to play Oklahoma.
But they beat Vandy. I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you because I know that's how that's gonna go.
They got to play Oklahoma. They got to play South Carolina, and they got to play Arkansas. And they strength of schedule, they can't afford to have 2 losses. I don't think so. I think they in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to argue against that. I want to, for the hot take part, I want to say Alabama, but I don't see that happening. Even with this loss, Bama takes on South Carolina next. They've got Tennessee, Missouri, LSU, Mercer, Oklahoma, and Auburn. Honestly, looking at this, before I even say teams they can lose to, I can only look at 3 teams on this list left that I believe have a chance to beat them.
Yeah, I see one more loss on their schedule.
Yeah,
out of the 3-4 teams.
So, because let me ask this: teams that won, like we mentioned, Miami, Georgia. I guess which winning team has the most trouble, is in the most trouble going forward.
Georgia, because of their schedule. Like we talked about, Ole Miss, Texas, Tennessee, Georgia Tech. Even hell, I mean, they got some games on their schedule that could go the other way if they don't play their best ball. And I don't think they have much margin of error.
Yeah. That's a good point. Paul's up said Alabama is in huge trouble as a road team. If the board can't win in Nashville, then Neyland, Death Valley, and Norman are going to be pure hell.
Yeah,
that's fair. That's fair. It was something else I wanted to talk about. I can't even think what it is. With college football.
Your boy.
There we go. Let's talk about it real quick before we go there. Speaking of teams in trouble, because I said I was going to talk about this. Trent Dilfer and UAB. People give Dion And anybody who's listened to me talk, no, I am not one to apologize or stick up or take up for Deion. I do not think Deion is. I think Deion is an excellent gatherer of talent, congregator, a collector of talent. I think he's a hell of a motivator. But I do think that Deion is not necessarily a really good coach. But if you look at it, Trent Dilfer has the same path to he don't coach to high school, then all of a sudden became a college coach.
Okay, let's see. That's what we differ at. That's what we differ at.
Okay.
Deion went to an FCS school first.
You're absolutely right.
Trent Dilfer went FBS first.
You're absolutely right. And you know what? I stand corrected on that. But I'll say this: the results or Deion showed success at Jackson State. I give you that. Trent Dilfer has not shown success anywhere. I don't even know what he did in high school, honestly. But Trent Dilfer at UAB is terrible. I can say it. I'll say it now because, and I may have told people in passing, UAB was recruiting Jay Sean. I was for it when Trent Dilfer got hired, and I started seeing some stuff around there. I told Jay Sean, I'd be damned if you go to UAB. Nothing. It would have been easy for us to send him there, so he can be, we can go to his games as quick as right down the road. I told I'd be damned because we literally got a text message after they lost to Navy last year and said, and it basically belittled and berated the current roster player, and it was something to the extent of, we're awful with some terrible, saying don't worry about that play. That's why we need guys like you. That I don't want my child somewhere like that. I don't. There's better ways to do it. To get into it with your staff on the sideline, some of the tantrum, the antics. I do not have a problem with a coach who has a religion, because I think that's great moral basis. But I don't need a fake evangelist leading my program, or whatever you want to call it. What we saw yesterday, I think, is the epitome and sums up a lot of who Trent Dilfer was, or who he is. They got shellacked, or however you want to put it, woodshed by Tulane. And it wasn't close. It was awful. 71-20?
Yeah, something like that. But it couldn't happen to a better program, man. Shout out to Bill Clark. He rebuilt that program, brought it back from the dead, and he was UAB football, and he stepped down, due to health reasons and medical reasons and things like that. And in his interim, one man by the name of Brian Vincent took over that team. Won a bowl game, took him to a bowl game and won. I think they finished the season like 7-6 or 8-5, something like that. All the players vouched for him to get the job, and they went and met with the president, talked with the president, and nothing. They didn't want to hire Brian Vincent. So Brian Vincent goes to New Mexico State, or New Mexico, one of them. I think New Mexico State, and is the OC there. Then he all of a sudden gets a job this season of where, of all places, ULM. He goes on to beat UAB and Trent Dilfer's team in the second week of the season. And he currently has ULM at 4-1 and 2-0 in Sun Belt and leading the Sun Belt Conference. That's who they could have had as the head coach at UAB. A guy who took a team that won 2 games last year and has already doubled their win total in 5 weeks. But
And the
a
only
guy
losses to the
who
number 1 team in the country.
yeah, the only country, yeah, exactly. The only loss is to Texas. But I mean, he was at UAB. You could have kept the program going. He had a good thing going, Bill Clark. You know, you could have kept that going. But instead, you wanted to get a hot, flashy young guy name. You know, you wanted a flashy name in Trent Dilfer, and you see what that gets you. You got what you deserve, bro. The grass ain't always greener. And us over here at ULM, we are very grateful for y'all's decision.
Noah said he was successful in high school. He has made no friends with his behavior. Folks here are hot. Here being Birmingham.
Hey, but just be cool though. He gonna have about 16 little kids at his press conference tomorrow. You didn't hear that story, did you?
No.
So he do his press conference after last game, right? Mm-hmm. And his grandson was in the seats or whatever, and he started crying. So he told his grandson to come on stage with him. And he's like, hey, you know, it ain't like we Alabama or nothing. You know what I mean? Like, and then the reporter asked him about it the following day or Monday or whatever. And he asked the reporter, he was like, were you in here? And the reporter was like, nah. And he was like, exactly. There was only 2 people in here. So that's why I didn't think it mattered. But now he's going to have probably about all his grandchildren up there at the press conference on Monday trying to deflect off that ass whooping they got. But to make matters worse, though, running back for Tulane, Hughes.
Yes.
You know where
Birmingham kid. Birmingham area. Yeah. A sophomore. Yeah.
And tore their ass up yesterday.
Yeah. Crazy, man. Since we mentioned, you know, saying we talked about Dilfer and stuff doing, doing terrible. And you mentioned ULM's coach, and I apologize for not remembering his name. Doing well, Brian Vince. I want to talk about another guy who's not getting as much credit, but has done well in the last, his last stop, and also where he's at now. Indiana's head coach, Cignetti.
Yeah, Kirk Cignetti.
Yeah. He built the foundation that is James Madison. As far and I know, let me say it because somebody come by. He didn't build James Madison. He had James Madison rolling before he took the job to Indiana, and James Madison is still moving and doing well.
He was now the one who made the transition from FCS to FBS with James Madison and had them winning as soon as they made the transition.
Yeah, and now he's at Indiana and has them rolling. Indiana's undefeated right now, and he's not going to get that credit. So, man, kudos to him. 6-0 on the season, 3-0 in the Big Ten.
Yeah, Sig's a good coach, dog.
Yeah, he's got wins over, and none of these are going to be, nobody's going to hear this and jump for joy. But he's got wins over FIU, Western Illinois, UCLA, Charlotte, Maryland, and Northwestern. But they're winning. None of these wins are close. None. Yeah. And I think that's what's impressive.
What he got that quarterback doing pretty impressive too, though. Rourke.
Yeah, Rourke.
Numbers up there.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. 118 of 160. So that's 73.8%. He's thrown for 1,752 passing yards, 14 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. He's only been sacked 5 times. He has a rating of 192.1. As a team, they're scoring 47.5 points per game. +3 in the turnover ratio.
Gonna find out. Oh, my bad.
No, I was just saying. Average time possession 31 minutes and 52 seconds.
Yeah, they're gonna we're gonna find out a lot about them in the next 5 games. They got Nebraska, Washington, Michigan State, Michigan, and Ohio State.
Yeah.
So if you can win 3 of those, you might be looking at a potential playoff team in Indiana.
That's fair. Yeah. So yeah. Next up, man, let's talk about AP Top 25. So the AP Top 25 came out. Texas is your new number one. Ohio State's number 2. Oregon's number 3. Penn State's number 4. So that's 3 Big Ten teams in your top, top 4.
Mhm.
Then you've got Georgia at 5, Miami at 6, Bama at 7, Tennessee at 8, Ole Miss at 9, Clemson at 10. Then at number 11 is Iowa State. Number 11, or tied at number 11, is Notre Dame. LSU is still at 13. They were off last week. BYU is at 14. Texas A&M is 15. Utah at 16. Boise State is at 17. Three-way tie at 18 with Kansas State, Indiana, and Oklahoma. Missouri is number 21. Pitt is number 22. Illinois is up to number 23. Michigan is down to number 24, and SMU is at number 25. Initial thoughts on the AP Top 25.
Yeah, I don't really care about that. I mean, all it does is market games as top 25 matchups and all this kind of stuff. I mean, ain't no real difference right now being 10 or being 13. It is kind of strange that certain teams moved up and certain teams didn't, even though certain teams played and others didn't, or neither team played and one team moved and the other one didn't. But I ain't really too worried about the polls right now.
Yeah. I thought it was weird. I thought it was weird to see a tie at number 11 and then tie at 18 or three-way tie at 18. If anything, I don't know. I was gonna say, if anything, I could see a tie at 1, but that's neither here nor there. Like you said, honestly, it doesn't matter. With a 12-team playoff, if you outside of 12, do you care?
All right.
So, yeah. Next up, man, how did we do? I ain't gonna even put the graphic up. You went 5-0. I went 1-4. Dylan went 1-4.
Chaos week, man.
I'm gonna tell you how crazy, how close it was. UNLV, Syracuse. UNLV gave up that late touchdown that ended up going to overtime and losing it. SMU Louisville came down to a last-second touchdown. No, we took that one off. We took that one off. It was what was the other game? It was something else that came down to
Michigan, Washington.
Yeah, Michigan Washington was close game until Washington scored the 13 in the fourth. Craziness. So I'm just going. I don't know. I'm gonna have to do better or something. I think I'm below 500 now.
I mean, Missouri, and A&M. Nobody thought it. I had it being a close game. Nobody saw it going like that, bro. And honestly, when I seen Wegman as a starter, I got even more worried about my pick. Like I was concerned.
It's funny because you sent me a message that can I change my pick, and I said, but by the time I saw it, the score was like 24-0. I was like, bro, like, come on.
I saw him as a starter, and I was like, because he hadn't been good, bro. You know what I mean? And the other kid had been playing pretty good. So I was like, man, they finna mess around and change quarterbacks. It's gonna mess them up. But yeah, it worked.
Yeah,
that's another coordinator that don't get enough credit though. Colin Klein for A&M.
Yeah. former Kansas State Wildcat quarterback. But hey, let's talk about the NFL real quick. Saints play tomorrow night, take on the Chiefs. Both sides really banged up. So it'll be interesting. But this is in Kansas City, so we'll see how that goes. But games today, man. Jaden just continues to be amazing.
Yep.
Continues to be amazing.
Joe Burrow said he had to be perfect, and he damn near was.
Dude, if he threw a pick
Mm-hmm.
that at the end of the game, but he still gave them a chance to win the game, and the freaking holder botched the snap, and they missed a 53-yard field goal, which is funny to say, like, you know what I'm saying, because it's
53 yards. That's a long kick.
It's a long kick, but
the way they
when
kicking these days,
it's like that it might as well have been, I ain't gonna say extra point, but they literally gave Justin Tuck a easy field goal. The 3:00 slate of games, wild. You want to talk about that? Why to see the Giants come back and beat
I tried to tell people they wouldn't be as bad as people made it seem, and they did it without Neighbors and Singletary.
Yeah. Brock Purdy and San Francisco losing to the Cardinals.
Didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, and then it was another one. Oh, your boys, the Broncos, Bo Nix and the squad coming from 10-0, getting the win out the.
Yeah, but then I was surprised that the Dolphins won with after Achane got knocked out the game versus the Patriots, and they was playing with Hundley at quarterback, and that would surprise me that they won.
Yeah,
Patriots are playing pretty good so far this year.
Yeah. I'm gonna just, because it is, it's playoff time, and how can we build a sports show and not talk about it? Major League Baseball playoffs. Major League Baseball playoffs are going on. They're in the second round. You got any predictions on who you think gonna take it?
I ain't saying
who you think gonna be in there? I know one team you want to be in there. But anybody you? Okay.
I ain't jinxing nothing.
All right. Well, I can't jinx. They ain't my team, so I'm gonna say this. I think it's gonna end up being Guardians and Dodgers.
Just had to say my team name, bro.
Yeah. Phillies ain't gonna get it done. Phillies gonna get second round.
I'm worried about beating
Padres. Padres not they. Yeah, I don't think Padres. I mean, they'll win this game, but I don't think
they're playing some hot baseball right now, though, man.
Yeah.
If we get past the Padres, I'll feel better about our chances. But if you ask me who I want to see, it wouldn't be the biggest stage in baseball without the two biggest stars. Give me the Dodgers versus the Yankees, Ohtani versus Judge on the biggest stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excuse me.
Old rivalry for the World Series.
Yeah. Next, WNBA playoffs. Of course, unfortunately, we will have a new champ this year. The Aces got knocked out by the Liberty today. They now await the winner of the Minnesota Lynx versus Connecticut Sun series. And it's tied at 2. Game 5 is on Tuesday. Who you got?
I'll ride with Minnesota. But I think the Liberty finna win it all, so it don't really matter. But free my girl Jackie, man. I think it's about time for a change of scenery, man.
I got you. I ain't got much else. But I'm going to open the phone lines up. Anybody want to call up, talk about the anything they talked about this, got college games this weekend, anything. The number 225-308-1234. That's 225-308-1234. That's too easy. Too easy. Let me ask this though. And NBA preseason just started. I know you don't really care, but anything on the NBA season so far, or season upcoming season? Any hot takes?
No, not really. No hot takes. I haven't even been really looking at the NBA. I am curious to see about how some of these teams are gonna look though. How Philly gonna look with Paul George? How the Knicks look with Cat and Bridges. So that's really my biggest takeaway is how some of these newer teams look.
Yeah. Of course, the hottest topic is going to be, and I say hottest topic just because it's drama. It's not even a basketball thing, but it's going to be LeBron and Bronny and how do they look and what is going to happen.
Already.
Yeah, I don't care. They showed the other day, and I'm a LeBron fan. They were like, LeBron saw the camera and he smiled. It's like, bro, really, because Bronny was on the court. It's like, come on, man. Come on, y'all got to give me something else. Any other takes though, or thing? Because I know we ain't talk about all the games.
Talked about the ones that matter though. Shout out to them Warhawks.
Yeah,
10-point favorites next week over Southern Miss.
they should cover that. They should cover that. Houston got a bye week. Their next game at Kansas. Very winnable game. Very winnable. Kansas is 1-3 right now, if I'm not mistaken. And I've been high on Kansas in the past. Some I don't know what's going on. I don't know if Jalen Daniels is out. But yeah, it's a very winnable game. Zion Chris, man. I know we ain't really break down the Houston game. Zion Chris, man, put on a show the other night, man, against TCU. Yeah, huge performance on ESPN. 15-18, 141 yards and a touchdown. He also added 11 carries for 97 yards and a touchdown on the ground too. Only reason he came out the game, man, he had a cramp. Came out the game, but huge shout out to Donovan Smith. He went in the game, critical fourth quarter, led the team down, and they put up a field goal to kind of secure it. Made it a two possession game, and you know what I'm saying, that was all she wrote. Jay Sean got his first, touch of the season. I was very proud to see that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And his roommate, man, DJ Butler got 2 carries as well, man. I was happy to see that. I didn't even look to see how many yards, but yeah, that was my favorite 4 yards catch I've ever seen in my life too.
I heard that, bro.
Yeah. I don't know. You got anything else?
Nah, that's all I got, dog.
All right, we can get ready to get up out of here. Oh, Penn State. A lot better. I ain't gonna say a lot better. I think Penn State might be they might be turning the corner, bro. But we shall see. They got USC, Wisconsin, and then Ohio State coming up.
Tell me that OC they got, man, make a difference.
Yeah, at USC, at Wisconsin, then home against Ohio State.
We'll find out a lot about them in them 3 weeks.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. But if nothing else, man, we can go ahead and get ready to get up out of here. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Go ahead and get the Thank you for watching. Could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. We appreciate that. Don't forget, subscribe, like, and share. We'll be back later this week with more picks, more breakdowns. Time to get ready. Got Ole Miss on the schedule. Like that, we out.
This show was presented by betonline.ag.
Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on Twitter at Golden Boot. On Instagram at Golden Boot. On YouTube at The Golden Boot Pod. On Facebook at The Golden Boot Pod.
Golden Boot!